Hello everyone, my name is Connor Matson from BrightBridge Web. Welcome back to the next video in our Django Mako Plus tutorial series. Today we're going to be talking about a very important and very fun aspect of making a Django Mako Plus website, and that is the administration. Now, you may wonder why you might need administration on the site, and I'm going to tell you that right now. Clients typically, except for a few scenarios and situations, they will typically want some kind of way to moderate or add content to their website. And this can be for both big and small clients. In the example of a small client, they might want to have a blog functionality on their site where they can go in themselves and add content. Surely they're not going to come to us every time they have a blog post and have us hard code it in. That would be inefficient and not an effective solution for them. So we're going to be working today to implement a very similar system to a blog. But on a large scale factor, you might have thousands of user comments coming in to the site on someone's post, right? And you might want to, you might have to moderate those comments. You might have to say, okay, that comment doesn't comply with our terms and conditions, so we're going to go ahead and remove it. You have to give admin rights and functionality on a website for there to be a nice system where moderation happens. And so this is where the Django admin comes into play. Now, there are two types of administration systems that we do here at BrightBridge Web. The first is we use the default Django admin, which comes built in with Django and is super easy to implement on a website. We're going to be going over that today, and it's going to be very, very fast to talk about and understand. It's a really easy concept. The next type of admin system we'll be talking about a little later, which is a custom admin, where you want to customize the styling or go into super custom inputs and control over user data and flow. So today we're going to be talking about the one that is built into Django and is the default admin system. I'm excited to go on this journey with you today, and I wish you best of luck as you code. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so when you're ready to get started, let's go ahead and create a blank Django project. I named mine Django_admin. You should be able to successfully create the project using the DMP documentation, and you should have a running local host that looks just like this. Once you have this ready to go, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So what we're going to be doing is we need to start with this blank project, and then we're going to create a model that we can manipulate from an admin area of the site, because typically admins are working directly to edit objects and add objects on a website using our models. So let's go ahead and go over to our homepage app. We'll scroll down, click models.py. And right here, you should have already had the models.py training, so go ahead and refresh yourself on that if you need to. But we're going to be creating a basic blog functionality today. So what we're going to do is we're going to say class blog post. We're going to be working here using just a super simple blog. You'll probably do this for a client at some point, so this is a good kind of refresher for you here. We'll go ahead and give this blog post an attribute title, which will be a models.char field or character field, car field. You can say it lots of different ways. I call it char field with a max length of 100 characters. And we'll specify that there. Let's go ahead and duplicate this one. And we'll make another character field with the attribute name author name. So this is where we can keep track of the author's name in the back end, as well as let's do something a little bit other than a char field. Let's maybe do a created on, which will be a models.date field. And with date field, what we can do is we can assign auto now add equal to true, which means that when this object is created, it will automatically add the current timestamp to this object so that we can know when it was created on. And then finally, arguably the most important part is the post content itself, and that will be a models.text field with no parameters accepted. And so when we do this, we can go ahead and save. So we're ready to, oops, I missed, this should be models.model because we're importing from models. Okay, so I'll save this. We can go down into our server, which I have down here in a terminal window, and I'm going to go ahead and run the command python manage.py make migrations. And it should say that we've successfully created model blog post. And then I'm going to go ahead and run python manage.py migrate, which will merge and connect those migrations into our active database. So I'm going to go ahead and restart the server here and just make sure that everything's running fine. If you see this, you're good, but you can also refresh the page just to ensure that there's no errors within the application itself. So once we've done this, we're kind of done with our setup. This is going to be a super simple video just going over the admin functionality. So this is all we need to do to set up. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is focus on creating a super user. Now, a super user, you've probably watched my video on abstract users, how we can create user models ourselves and create different attributes for users, how to check different information about users, that kind of thing. But by default, Django has a user that's built into it. It has a user-based system in the django.contrib.auth library. And so what we're going to do today is we're just going to use that, because typically when you create site admins, you can do it directly through a command line, because typically for at least smaller clients, not large-scale membership platforms, typically there will only be between, like maybe 2 and 3 admins at most for the site, if you even include yourself as an admin. And so you typically don't need a lot of creation functionality for admins, although we will talk about custom admins a little bit down the line. So there's a super easy and built-in way to create an admin. And so you should know this command for the upcoming test. It's an important one. It's python manage.py create super user. When we do this, we're going to be prompted to create a lot of the basic user fields that we would, typically create via a sign-up form on a website or creating just any sort of user. So I'm going to go ahead. I typically like to name my admins Connor. So my admin is Connor. I can go ahead and stick in my email address, Connor at brightbridgeweb.com. And then I'll create a password, which will be 12345 and 12345. Hopefully it'll let me do that one. And it won't, because the password is too short, it's too common, and it's entirely numeric. So basically what we're doing is Django has all this set up in a way that it's trying to keep security, because it knows that super users are the most powerful accessor to the site. So what we're going to do is we're going to say no. We'll give it a better password, which I will keep to myself. Said they didn't match. Let's try it again. There we go. And now it's created successfully. Let's go ahead and run the server. And when we do so, let's go ahead and let's go to here. And this is probably something you've never seen before in Django, but Django actually comes with some pages pre-built. You've sure recognized this one by now. We've seen a lot of this kind of default starter page. But when you run the start app method in Django Mako Plus, it actually creates some additional functionality to you that's kind of built in, and one of those is /admin. If we go to /admin, you'll see a page that's entitled Django Administration, and it prompts you for a username and a password. Let's go ahead and enter our username and password. And you can see that once I'm authenticated, I'll be taken to this Django administration kind of web page, which is really cool. We already have a default built-in admin functionality here. We can go ahead and we can look at some of these things. By default, Django enables these kind of objects called groups, which allows you to group objects group users together. And then it also allows for users. And you can see right here that the user I just created is Connor, username Connor with my correct email address. And it says that I'm staff status. So something that's really cool is that you can actually go in here. You'll see that once again, my password, as we talked about in the user video, is protected with database encryption and a SSHA encryption right here with hashing. It's a complex algorithm that'll protect users' data. But what we see here is that we can actually edit a lot of this stuff, and by default, the purpose of the Django admin is to take models, take objects that you've already created, and turn them into super easy and editable forms. You'll notice that I started from a blank project and already have all of this stuff that I can, use to edit websites and stuff. So, for example, I can go ahead and I can enter my first and last name here, which is Connor Matson. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, I'll be prompted to save, and I can save the content. And you can see that over here in this column, my first and last name have been saved. You can see that with this, clients can easily go in and edit, they can edit users, they can edit anything. And the idea behind the Django administration, once again, is that we can give it any of our models, any of our objects, and let an admin or a webmaster go ahead and manipulate that data for the site's benefit. And so we're going to go ahead and practice this. I've shown you users. You can go ahead and create users. You can create other super users, give them administration access. And by the way, if you use abstract user and have that as one of your models, that will also work with this system as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can go ahead and register our models with admin.py. Okay, so if you go back to your code, you'll notice within homepage, we have on the same level as our models.py, we have one called admin.py. Let's go ahead and click this. On line 1, we're importing the Django Contrib admin functionality, which is basically just the library that controls all admin functions on the site. You're going to want to know the syntax that I'm about to display, so make sure that you're aware of this for when you make models as well as for your Django test. So we're going to import from homepage.models. That is that's kind of our syntax for accessing the models. We're going to import that model we just created, and I have to remember what I called it, blog post. So blog post, make sure that it's the same casing, which it's camel case here. Let's go ahead, and then what we're going to do on line 5 is we're going to say it's a super simple command. It's literally one line, and it will register your models with admin, and that's admin.site.register, and then we give it in the parameter the name of the model. And so when we do this, let's go back over here and we can refresh this admin page. And it's currently not working. Let's see. I'm going to save it again and go back to home. Oh, that's what I had to do. So see, I was actually in a subcategory. If you go back to home, you can see that within homepage, we have a auto-created administration page called blog posts. When we click this, you'll see that we have 0 blog posts, and that's the idea, right? Is that we have nothing yet. But with Django Admin, have no fear. We can go up to this button in the corner that says Add Blog Post, click it, and we'll be taken to this page. You'll notice that we have 3 fields on this page, and the reason we have 3 fields, if we go back to our model, you'll notice that created on, we told it to just automatically assign this upon creation. So it won't display on kind of the front end of the admin page. So really cool, and it's really intuitive. All we had to do was this one line of code right here where we register a model, and it's voila, it's right before our eyes. So let's go ahead and create a blog post. We'll call it blog post 1. We'll give it an author name of Connor, and we'll add some post content, which we can say, hello, welcome to my first blog post. I'm going to go ahead and click the save button down here. There are some other options as well, but we'll just click save. And when we do this, you'll see that we have a blog post object. I can go in and click this, and I'll see, just exactly what I saw before, the regular information about the blog post. I can go ahead and edit it or delete it entirely from here. And yeah, you can see that it's registered within the database. It's showing on the admin, which is a good sign in lots of ways. Now, you've probably you've probably worked at this point with object syntax, but what we can do is we can now go to our front end, which I won't do in this video, but if you wanted to, you can go to a front end page. You can create a page called blog, and we can just use a for loop, right? We can say for blog post in models.blog posts, right? That kind of thing, right? We'll import the blog posts and display them all on a kind of front page. Which is really cool. So what you have here is a very, very basic way to create an administrative feature on a website. Now, it must be noted that you should only give access to Django administration to the client and very close and trusted people of the client, because when you have access to Django administration, you have access to everything basically that you register with it, right? Including the user class. So if one person, one admin or staff came in here and deleted everyone else's, admins, that could be dangerous. So you don't want to use this casually. You want it to use it only for the client's purposes. If the client wants to have custom, and dynamic content on a website, this is a super easy way to do it, especially if a project is fairly simple and is not a very long-term project. This is a great way to get them up and running super fast. Now, you should note that this is not the only way to make an administration system. You can actually call upon super users within your own templates, right? We can check to see if a user is a super user, and we're going to be going over that in a future video, because in one of our future videos, we're going to be talking about how to make a custom administration, because sometimes you don't want the Django administration for the easiest for the most basic reason, which is that it's not complex enough, right? Say that I did want to, have lots of really fine manipulation of various, of various inputs and that kind of thing. I don't have a lot of control over that in the Django admin, because it's just pulling my models and doing everything that I kind of told models to do. If I wanted to create my own forms, my own styling, the best way to do that is with a custom admin, and we'll be talking about that in a future video. There's one last thing that we need to talk about, and then we've kind of covered all of Django admin. The last thing that we need to talk about is the difference between null and blank fields. Now, this might have been touched up on just a little bit in our video about models.py, but I want to just iterate it one more time and kind of express it in the importance of a Django or custom admin. If we go to blog posts and to a blog post object, let's actually just go create a new one. You'll see that all of the labels for these input fields are colored in bold, and that is simply because the site is currently requiring all three of these fields to make up a blog post. When you're working with backend objects and databases, you'll typically want to have control over which fields are required and not required, because sometimes fields can be null or they can be left blank, in which you don't want to have to require someone to fill out certain things. If I try to click save right now, it'll tell me that all of these are required. One way to, the proper way actually to work with this is to add the add the parameter blank equals true to your models on the specific models that you want to not be required. What this does is blank is a purely validation related attribute. If a field has blank equals true, then form validation will allow the entry of an empty value. But if blank is false, then the field will be required, and by default, blank is false. And so on fields where you don't want a certain thing to be required, for example, in all honesty, probably what's really optional here is an author name. Perhaps the author is anonymous. So let's go ahead and say blank equals true, and we can save this. And we should maybe, let's take a look. I think we might need to rerun migrate, because this is a change to the models. So we're going to remake migrations. Oops. Type that wrong. Migrations. We're going to it altered the field author name on blog post. We're going to go ahead and run migrate, and it migrated successfully. Let's go ahead and run server. When we do so, let's go back to the site, refresh this page. Let's not actually confirm a form validation there. Let's say add blog post again, and you'll see that this time the author name is not bold. We're telling it that it's allowed to be blank. And to prove this, let's go ahead and name this blog post 2, and then some content within the content section. I'll go ahead and save this. And when I do so, it saved successfully. It didn't tell me that this was a required field. And so this is really important. Null is purely a database related keyword. The null argument means that we're allowing a non-existent value to be saved kind of in the database, whereas blank is purely kind of front-end related. We're telling Django that this field is allowed to have nothing in it, and it will allow an empty value in this field. With that being said, I think you have the basis of what Django administration is. I encourage you to play around with this a little bit. You know, there's always a lot. I say this at the end of all my videos, you know, play around with it a little bit, because there's a lot you can do with the Django administration, and I've been using Django admins for a long time, and I believe that there are both positives and negatives to both the Django administration and custom administration. And I'm glad that we got to go over one of these systems today. Just remember that having a site administration system is an excellent selling point for potential clients, right? It gives site administrators an easy way to manipulate and access data from the database. It's a great tool for development as well, as we debug and test our websites, because we can go in and register just all of our models right off the bat, and then just have a quick interface where we can look and see, you know, what objects are saved with certain attributes, right? We can do filters and we can do tests using Django admin. So a really cool functionality that is built into Django. And as we mentioned today, we have 8 lines of code here and 5 lines of code here. This is a 13-line Django admin. And so really cool. And I encourage you to go in and, you know, work on, go ahead and register your own models, right? It's as simple as this line. So long as you have your model imported, you can register it to the admin and have it be accessible and manipulated from the admin page. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck on your Django Mako Plus coding, and I wish you all the best. Thanks for watching.